Welcome back to Prognosis EMR. In this video, we'll walk you through how to access, navigate, and create user profiles in Prognosis. To use Prognosis, every user must have a user ID and password. Before these credentials can be assigned, a user profile must first be created in the system. Let's explore how to create these profiles and the different types available. Creating a user profile requires administrative access. From your Prognosis home screen, click the Settings tab, then select Configuration. In the Users column, you can define and configure various user roles, which determine default access levels. These permissions can later be modified by assigning specific roles and user permissions from the Roles and User Roles master screens. Let's begin with designations. Designations are internal staff titles, such as receptionist or X-ray technician. When you open the designation screen, you'll see a list of standard titles. To add a new one, click Add New, enter your locally defined title, and click Save. These titles can then be linked to user profiles during creation. Next, let's look at the specialty profile. Specialties define the area of medical practice or expertise, and can be assigned to providers, resources, or referring doctors. Examples include cardiology, orthopedics, or radiology. To add a new one, click Add New, enter a name and a code for the specialty, and click Save. These specialties can then be linked to user profiles during creation. Next, let's look at the provider's profile. Providers include doctors, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants. These profiles are unique because they are tied to your clinic's contract and licensing with Prognosis. Please note, the provider profile is linked to your clinic's licensing with Prognosis. Click the Provider menu to view existing providers. If all provider licenses are in use, the Add New button will be unavailable. You must delete or inactivate an existing profile, or purchase additional licenses to add more providers. If licenses are available, click Add New to create a provider profile. Fill in all the mandatory details. Once saved, the provider becomes active for the clinic, and their user ID and password are generated for them to access Prognosis. Next, let's look at the resource profile. Resource profiles do not require licensing and are primarily used for scheduling. They can represent human resources, like a dietitian, or a therapist, or non-human resources like an X-ray machine. Resources cannot have user IDs or passwords, and cannot close or bill an encounter. However, they can attend to a patient and document an encounter alongside another provider. To add a resource, click Add New, enter a name, for example, Daniel Harris, and click Save. If a resource also requires system access, create a clinical staff profile for them. This is the only case where a single person may have two profiles. In Prognosis, both provider and resource profiles can be associated with schedules and have appointments booked for them. Next, let's look at the medical assistant profile. The medical assistant profile is for staff members who serve as medical assistants and perform specific clinical actions not available to other roles by default. To create one, click Medical Assistant, then Add New, enter the person's name, and click Save. Next, let's look at the clinical staff profile. The clinical staff profile is for users who require clinical access but are neither providers nor medical assistants. They have broader clinical permissions than administrative staff but do not have the specialized medical assistant permissions. To create one, click Clinical Staff, then Add New, enter the user's name and designation, and click Save. Designations are especially useful here for differentiating between various types of clinicians or technologists. Next, let's look at the office staff profile. The office staff profile is for administrative and clerical roles, such as receptionists or front desk personnel. This does not refer to system administrators. By default, office staff do not have access to clinical functions such as charting or placing orders. If a staff member needs access to both administrative and clinical areas, for example, collecting co-payments and ordering labs, you can assign the necessary roles and permissions, or create multiple profiles for them if needed. Next, let's look at the ref doctor's profile. Referring providers are physicians who direct patients to another clinic or doctor for further assistance, investigation, or treatment. Their details are stored in the referring provider master. Once a referring provider profile is saved, they become active for the clinic, and their user ID and password are generated so they can access and use Prognosis. That covers all EMR user profiles in Prognosis. Remember, a user's access in Prognosis is determined primarily by their user profile, and further refined through assigned roles and permissions, which we'll cover in a future video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or need more help, please reach out to the Prognosis support team at support@bismaticsinc.com.